Yes, I have a few announcements. The first announcement for this session is that the registration is open now for new fall circles. There will be 3 circles, one on first and third Thursdays in the morning, Pacific time zone, one second and fourth Tuesdays, and one on the second and fourth Sundays for evening folk. The sessions will begin in September, and if you're interested in joining one of those, you can register at circles@unitarians.org. The 2 ongoing discussions are still going. The NAUA discussion circle that is open to all will continue through the fall. The next date is Wednesday, August 6th at 4 o'clock. And the forum circle is taking a summer break, but it will resume in the fall. For that one, you need to sign up and register for, there's a limit on the number of participants. Also, in the Compass or on the website under programs and circles, you can go there to get the Zoom links for these. NAUA is now a member of the International Association for Religious Freedom. That organization is the oldest interfaith organization in the world. It unites members across 5 continents and over 20 countries. It engages in thoughtful study, interfaith dialogue, spiritual practice, and advocacy for human rights. And since we are now a member of that organization, we can attend the courses and programs that they offer. On July 23rd and 24th, there will be a program on Buddhism, which is part of their Free Religion Institute course. Registration is not required. The program will be offered twice to accommodate the wide variation in members' time zones. The current Compass that was just released has more information and a schedule of sessions and a Zoom link for the sessions. I haven't seen it up quite on the website yet, but it will probably be up there under events. We have a last call for nominations to the board. If you know of somebody you'd like to recommend or somebody who's interested in joining the board, including yourself, shoot an email to nomcom@unitarians.org. You may be getting a request from the Member Services Committee to update your profile information. A lot of people have incomplete information, and it's not required, but for instance, they have more than 400 contacts that don't have physical addresses, which means that when they reach out to folks, for instance, about regional groups, they don't know what region you're in or how to reach out to you about that. So when you see that coming through your email, it's not required information, but it sure is helpful. And then lastly, as you are able, please do consider a financial donation to NAUA to help us keep all of these and our other offerings thriving. You can do it easily and very quickly online in the Support Us section of the website, naunitarians.org. And that's all I have this morning, so we can begin.
For our opening words this morning, I'm going to read by, sorry.
No. I'm gonna light the chalice first, Joyce.
Okay,
I think I am anyway. The chalice lighting words today are from Albert Schweitzer. At times, our own light goes out and is rekindled by a spark from another person. Each of us has cause to think with deep gratitude of those who have lighted the flame within us.
May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at peace. May I be whole. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at peace. May you be whole. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be peaceful and at peace. May we be whole.
good morning. Now I will have the opening words by Thich Nhat Hanh. We are here to awaken from the illusion of our separateness. And now we will have music followed by some thoughts on Yin and Yang this morning. Thank you.
Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? What are we? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Mystery. Life is a riddle and a mystery. Where do we come from? Mystery. Life is a riddle and mystery. Where do we come from? Where are we going? Where do we come from? Where are we
Understanding needs adjustments and variations of perspective, along with empathy, curiosity, and openness. The yin-yang reminds us that true balance and wholeness appear when we recognize the interconnected needs of opposing forces, each both sustaining and being sustained by the other. In our day-to-day lives, we're usually so immersed in the details of living, our groups, friendships, hostilities, and human interactions, that we don't see the big picture. The ancient symbol of Taoism offers a tool, serving as both a telescope and magnifying glass to consider our interactions. The yin-yang symbol is a circle surrounding two intermeshed and opposing regions, where each, curiously, surrounds elements of the opposition. It is a view from the outside looking at the whole, but in only two dimensions. This is a profound vision, enabling and yet limiting, a view seldom seen by those who inhabit it. Vision is usually limited. From the inside, you are unable to see over the barrier of immersion. One might be in the middle of that which is familiar, secure, and safe, surrounded by that which is similar. One might be in the center of opposition, surrounded and vastly outnumbered. One might be pressed to the border, where confusion reigns as the two sides are locked together in their differences and similarities. It takes different vantage points to see how two things, which seem so much in opposition, are needed to make each other whole, and yet each has needs that must be realized to enable it to thrive. The yin-yang symbol is about balance and interconnectedness. It presents a circle enclosing two opposing yet complementary regions, each holding elements of the other, an intricate dance of unity and diversity. Outside of the chaos, we see how these dualities interrelate, each forming a necessary part of the whole. While this view is limited to two dimensions, it enables a view that is unseen by those who see reality in four dimensions, but whose vision is clouded by proximity. Unseen when immersed in the chaos, the differences and similarities within and between those regions weave together to create wholeness. It is only by shifting our vantage point, by stepping outside our immediate reality, that we realize how opposition is not merely conflict, but a vital part of harmony. Thank you.
Yin and Yang are ancient Chinese concepts that form part of the philosophy of Taoism. Everything is made up of opposites, light and dark, warm and cold, good and evil, action and inaction. The world depends on the balance of yin and yang. When they are out of balance, the world descends into chaos. The symbols show that in each side there is a bit of the other, some white in the black, some black in the white. The universe is never static, but always moves from one side to the other and back again. Our Western society has been based on the idea of progress, onward and upward. But, as the song says, to everything there is a season, a time to build up and a time to tear down. Perhaps we are at that time of chaos when from building up we go to tearing down. I don't know. And I don't control the state of the universe. I just try to do a little bit on the positive side. So rather than expound on how this principle applies, let me tell you a story. My story is about skin color. My skin is white, and my friend Bob is about as dark as people get. Bob is a big man, an imposing figure, tall and strong and very black. His personality is quite the opposite, kind and agreeable. He's a retired lawyer for the Justice Department of San Francisco. He lives in an upscale suburb called Half Moon Bay, just a block from the ocean. We made wine together, Bob and I and two other guys. If you haven't done it before, home winemaking by the barrel is a large muscle activity. Lots of hard work in the hot sun, and later you get to drink the wine. and you need a pickup truck. Bob had a rusty old pickup truck. It looked like it belonged in the junkyard. And it broke down at least once along the highway with a half a ton of crushed grapes in the back. Anyhow, one day, while Angelo, Al, Bob, and I were sitting around waiting for the wine to pump from one barrel to the next, Bob complained that he had been stopped by the local police while driving his truck in his own neighborhood. Yes, the classic driving while black story. Made worse, of course, since Bob is a retired lawyer. After expressing our sympathy, Al, Angelo, and I, engineers that we were, said, "Bob, buy a new truck." He wasn't happy with our response, but he did buy a new truck, and he wasn't stopped by the police again. So that's my little story, and now we'll hear a longer one from Joyce.
Good morning. My name is Joyce Kinnear, and I'm a member of the NAUA Worship Committee, here to talk with you today about my perspectives on Yin and Yang. When I was a preschooler, we lived for 4 years in the South. 2 of those years were in Tumsuba, Mississippi. This was in the period 1969 to 1971, when the Deep South was convulsed with issues of racism and protest to enhance the civil rights of people in the United States, particularly Black Americans. My parents to this day have many stories about the racism they saw as a young white couple from Northern California thrown into this stew. I really remember very little of what happened, other than what my parents told me, but some of those stories are pretty shocking about the racism and poverty that they saw in the rural South. One story is this. On June 21, 1964, 3 young men, civil rights activists James Chaney, Andrew Goodman, and Michael Schwerner, were murdered by local white members of the Ku Klux Klan in the small community of Longdale, Mississippi. These young men were kidnapped, shot, and buried in shallow graves for the crime of visiting a church in that town and trying to help other people. Their actions were so frightening to some people that these people felt the only way to avoid a future they did not like was to murder these men in cold blood. 5 years later, and about 45 miles away, my father and I drove our little rattle-trap car into the yard of a very poor rural Black family to sell them religious books. While I was ignorant of what had happened in the area around us and the continuing hatred and discrimination, my father certainly was not. What did it feel like to him to drive into the yard of that home? What did the family feel like when they looked out of the curtains and saw us coming toward their house? Was anyone afraid? I don't know, but I suspect they were. A preschool-aged me was blissfully unaware and excited to be on an outing with my dad. My father had taken a job selling religious books, moving my mom and 3 of us kids to one of the most rural parts of the Deep South, Tumsuba, a few miles from the Alabama border. Our little single-wide trailer sat nestled in the middle of pine-covered hills. Everything around us was dyed a reddy mud-clay color. It was a very quiet existence. At any time my dad took me on one of his routes to sell books, it was heaven for me. As we turned from that rural road onto the property next to a very old and weathered home, we noticed a powder blue Mercury glistening in the sun from its new wash and wax next to the house. My dad laughed, and he told me it was very important for certain poor people especially to have at least one lovely thing, and for these people it was clearly that car. The family was unbelievably kind to us. The ladies of the house fixed us the most colorful and tasty dish I had eaten to that point in my life. It was filled with the colors of summer, bright yellow corn, eye-popping sweet red tomatoes, and smooth okra. All of this abundance was served in the most flavorful sauce I could imagine, along with piping hot cornbread, fresh from the oven. It was the best food I had ever tasted, and the beginning of a love affair between me and flavorful dishes. After the meal, the men and my father retreated to the living room where the discussion over the religious books began. This talk lasted for a long time and seemed to include a fair amount of topics of politics, world history, religion. I don't know. They were serious conversations, but they included laughter. I really didn't notice their interaction very much. The young girl of the house and I had more important things to attend to. We sat together and played. First we fixed our hair. She commented on how soft and fine the lanky straight tresses of my tangled mess were. She did not believe how difficult it was to braid these gossamer strands and then keep them together. We laughed together as each one wisped apart. I, on the other hand, was entranced by the springiness of her hair. It obeyed my wishes entirely when trying to braid it. What a novel experience, obedient hair. After the hair was in order, we sat down on the floor and looked at the colorful children's books my father had brought to sell. As we turned the brightly illustrated pages, we read the stories together. I remember looking down once and marveling at the beauty of our colors together. My pale, almost pink hand next to hers so dark it was almost blue. The pleasant afternoon rolled on, all of us talking together. Eventually my dad and I got up and we went back to the car. I really have no idea whether he sold any books that day or not, nor do I remember seeing that family again. I do remember tasty food, conversations, lots of laughter, and holding hands. Now, as an adult looking back, I marvel at the pleasantness of that afternoon in the midst of really a terrible time in Mississippi. I know that many people were working to make things better and more equal for everyone, but there were riots, protests, and so many angry people. That was absent on that lovely afternoon. My parents were also regularly visited by a college friend, Joe. He was black, and I'm certain that his visit to our home created a lot of gossip in the community, because it was very unusual at that time for a white family to have someone not white over to the house. But what I remember were the stories he told me about where he grew up in Georgia. He said that in his small town, everyone, black and white, was descended from the same enslaver. It took a bit of creative storytelling for him to give this information to a 5-year-old in a way that didn't create too much drama with her parents, but I eventually did come to understand that the children from this enslaver did not come in the way that I was aware, no mommy and daddy voluntarily living together and having children. After lengthy discussions about this, I had so many questions in my little mind. What color were the children? How did they know they were related? Did they look alike? Were some black, others brown? Did the people in the town he grew up get along because they were related, or were they angry with each other because they had been forced to be related? I was very curious in the way that only a preschooler can be. He told me they got along about as well as any family. My parents' friend Joe very seriously told me that the way you could tell that someone had black and white ancestry is because that person is striped like a zebra. I laughed hysterically, as I was supposed to, and the conversation got silly. Any tension over the dinner table was eased. Looking back now, I believe that he did mean that story about people being striped like zebras is a way to have a serious conversation with the 5-year-old in a way that she could comprehend. But there was a lot of truth in what he said. People from different ethnic, racial, and cultural backgrounds can feel like zebras, all mixed up. If your parents are from different backgrounds or you were raised in a culture different from that of your birth, you can be metaphorically striped like a zebra in your interactions with the world. Being a part of more than one cultural group, you can also feel like an outsider in many times and situations. Even people like me, who descend from what is generally similar ethnic background, can feel culturally torn. I have lived and spent considerable parts of my life in different cultural areas of the United States, as well as Germany, Panama, and Mexico. In the past year, we have visited old haunts in Northern California, New Mexico, coastal mountain Mexico, and rural Panama. I feel a part of each of these cultures, and I'm quite comfortable and at home when on the beach in Bucerias, in a park in Sacramento, visiting a local restaurant on Las Cruces, or hiking in my old neighborhood of Santa Lucia Boquete. The festival in each of these places, the music that people make, the artistry from their community, all feel like mine and part of me. And yet, while we feel at home in each of these places, we are also outsiders in every one. Even though I am a 4th-generation Californian by birth, I haven't lived my whole life there or even in all parts of the state. I have no idea what Los Angeles is like, for instance. Also, hamburgers with chili have green peppers, not anything that is brown and includes beans, while the scent of chili growing in the hot New Mexico sun brings back warm memories of stuffed sopapillas that fill my soul as well as my belly. But that culture is not completely mine either. I feel at home while watching a national parade in Boquete or sitting in a restaurant on a Mexican beach, but I am not a citizen in either place, and there are many people who would point out to me quite strongly that I am not Panamanian or Mexican. Some would even argue that wearing my Embra dress or Panama hat or beautifully embroidered Mexican shirts, that by doing so I am appropriating the culture of these places. And yet, those places, their culture, their history and life are all a part of me. In those ways, I am a zebra. Many of us are. How much more is the discomfort of people who are from different ethnic or racial backgrounds? How about the person who is Asian by ancestry but raised in white culture in the US, Europe, or Canada? How about somebody who is raised in the United States but has a Mexican passport? We should give people grace as we express our cultures separately. We need to allow each person to be most comfortable and real of who that person is without being critical of that person for what kind of music they play or the art they create. I think that those who are quick to yell cultural appropriation in such cases are as racist as those who look down on other people who is from a different ethnic background, speaks a different language, is different color, or is born in a different country. It seems to me that we need to understand that we all have our own unique cultural backgrounds and ethnic homes. Many of us are zebras to one level or another, just as my parents' friend Joseph told me. We should try to get along about as well as any family did, as did his. We should also spend more time with people who have different backgrounds than ours. If more people have turned into the driveway of those who are different from them, as my dad did, would there have needed to be so many people to fight for freedom and the right to vote? If more of us practiced hospitality like that family did, we would be friends and not enemies on either side of the cultural divide. If people were hospitable and remembered each other fondly, would senseless beatings at Selma, Alabama, so close to where we lived at the time, have happened? If we were so friendly and treated each other with respect, would we be in the situation we are now in? Thank you. Have a blessed day.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lorraine Day. I'm on the worship committee coming to you from Birch Bay, Washington. I'm here to talk about my thoughts around the yin yang symbol that we all know so well. It took me a very long time to grow up. I was an idealist. No, I was a purist, and therefore constantly bruised by my own crushed expectations of the world, especially when it came to other people. I saw the world pretty much as black and white, right and wrong, good and bad. There wasn't much room in my understanding for human foibles, much less human failures. When the worship committee decided to take a look at yin yang, I did a lot of research around what the great traditions tell us about this symbol. Yin yang represents the interdependence of opposites. The white side, yang, represents a state of action, boldness, light, positivity, the sun. It's often described as masculine energy, while the dark side, yin, represents passivity, receptivity, darkness, absence, the moon, and it's often described as feminine. Don't get me started on gender stereotyping. In Matthew Fox's terms, you could think of them as the via positiva and the via negativa. And those dots of opposing color in each side express the idea that there's a little bit of each aspect in the other. Together, the two sides represent the struggle for balance and harmony inherent in the world as we know it. We tend to see this yin-yang symbol as a static representation of the order in the world. The two halves are adjacent, even spooning. But really, these poles, these opposing forces, aren't separate things. They're enmeshed in the greater whole, integral and inseparable. And they're not static. They're dynamic forces. They're constantly moving, twisting, spinning, and waxing and waning, each one responding to changes in the other. When one force gets too strong, the opposing force expands to create equilibrium again. Here, let me show you what I mean. Yin Yang is not really the same thing as our Western concept of dualism because, unlike dualism, the two sides are not at war in Yin Yang. The opposite forces of Yin Yang fit together seamlessly and they work in harmony. As one quality reaches its peak, it naturally begins to transform into the opposite quality, creating an endless cycle. These energies are equal in power and they coexist in all things. That static graphic doesn't really show us how these forces can get wildly out of balance, disordered and falling into chaos. And yet they constantly readjust towards equilibrium, towards order, more movement, more change. And really, this groping for order seems to be as much a part of our world as chaos. Some teachers say that these two forces were created simultaneously at the creation of the world, and they cannot be separated. The way a drinking glass can't be separated from the space it encloses. You remove one, the glass or the space, and the whole thing disappears as if it never was. The forces are inseparable, locked in an eternal tug between attraction and revulsion, like magnets reversing poles. And some teachers say that it's the friction, this tension between these forces, that drives this spinning world. The same force, to paraphrase Dylan Thomas, that through the green fuse drives the flower. And more, a thing can be yin in one moment and yang in another. A stalk of wheat is yang while it is growing, but it becomes yin when it's harvested. Not only do they wax and wane, they transform and transform again. Just think about what this means for our relationships. That last thought, how one thing can be yin at one moment and yang at another, changed everything for me. And sometime in my 50s, I finally wised up. I let go of my demand for purity. The dear friend who, in time, prefers another, the loving husband who grows distant, the sweet child who turns 13 and defiant, the favorite coworker who takes credit for your work, all the disappointments, the betrayals, the injustices, and pain in life don't cancel out the joy, the love, and the delight that used to be. The flux between the two create wholeness, and the seed of harmony and reconciliation is always there, When spring rains come, it will spring back into life. It's all just another spin of yin yang, another turning, and it will turn back again. This yin yang symbol reminds me that no thing is just one thing, no event, no relationship, no individual. We are all constantly in a state of becoming, seeking balance, falling out of equilibrium, and then returning again. The symbol reminds me that indeed there is a time for every season. It reminds me that while nature seems inclined to slip towards chaos, another equal force seeks order and harmony. It reminds me to strive for moderation in all things. And it reminds me that life works in cycles. All things must pass. So there is wisdom in having faith and forbearance and patience when times are bad, and in being grateful and celebrating when times are good.
To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time for every purpose under heaven. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, and a time for every purpose under heaven. A time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to reap, a time to kill, a time to heal, a time to laugh, a time to weep. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, turn, turn. And a time for every purpose under heaven. A time to give up, a time to break down, a time to dance, a time to mourn, a time to cast away stones, a time to gather stones together. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, 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 and a time for every purpose under heaven. A time of love, a time of hate, a time of war, a time of peace, a time that you may embrace, a time to refrain from embracing. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, turn, 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 and a time for every purpose under heaven. A time to gain, a time to lose, a time to rend, a time to sow, a time to love, a time to hate, a time for peace, as wisdom too late. To everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season, there is a season, And a time for every purpose under
It seems our candle took the word seriously because I didn't put it out. The time to extinguish it was done by the candle itself. So we will do that. But I would like to add these closing words, which I think are very appropriate to today's service. It's adapted from Gaelic runes. Deep peace of the running wave to you. Deep peace of the flowing air to you. Deep peace of the quiet earth to you. Deep peace of the shining stars to you. Deep peace of the infinite peace to you.
Thanks, Bob, and thanks to everybody who participated in the service today. I thought it was great.